Hello, everybody. Hey, at the end of a transaction, do your customers feel like it was their decision, their investment to be made, or are we possibly leaving them with the feeling that they're being pushed or pulled? Let's have some fun taking a look at this, all right? We'll stick around. We'll see you in a few. Hey, everybody, Jeff Mason, SimpleBiz360 podcast, SimpleBiz360.com, SimpleBiz360, the book on Amazon, $18.95. It's filled with 255 suggestions. What are we all about? We love looking at the business experience, right? It's the experience frontier. How do customers feel? So we love looking at overlooked and ignored business principles that are more or less rooted in common sense. That's what makes us tick. So we thank you for coming by today. We're at the home of Half Coast Studios, St. Louis, Missouri. We got Matt on the boards. We are coming to you here, episode 122, just having some fun. And we're calling this Bought or Sold. Which one is it? Right? So just think about it. Do your customers feel manipulated or led? Do your buyers want decisions to be theirs, or do they want it to be yours? Do your buyers feel pushed or pulled? Do your buyers want to invest, or do they want to buy? Do they want to purchase, or do they want something that has a return on that investment? Well, we love what President Eisenhower, how he described leadership and going back to his military days in World War II, and he really defined it this way. And I've aspired to this definition for most of my career. Leadership is the ability to get someone to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. So, this isn't going to be any tricky sales formula. We're not trying to talk about sales here, but we're trying to talk about the feeling that the customer, that experience the customer has at the end of it, during the middle of it. Do they feel like they're making an investment that is a decision of their own, or do they feel like they're being pushed? And do they feel like they're being coerced or manipulated? And those are some things that we really, want to flush out here. So nothing happens until we sell something. So even us entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or mompreneurs or businesses, we really don't want to get salesy about things. Everything has to get sold for us to get paid and for us to make money in a business. So every one of us lives that cycle out for the most part. But, a lot of people don't want to be all salesy about it. So, what I want to try to do is just shed some light on understanding the buying process. Because if you understand the buying process in a very simplified way, it'll allow you to eventually address that ultimate question: am I leaving my customers with the feeling that they're buying something, or they're being sold something? And really the word I love is, are they investing in something, or are they being sold something? They feel like their arm's being twisted a little bit. So let's just check out, in classic buying process training, which I've been taught in my career. Let's dip into the Dale Carnegie sales courses, same basic thing. There's 5 phases that a buyer goes through when they're making a decision. And the first is the attention phase. And in that attention phase, you're really getting, you're liking the message, but you're liking the messenger. So whoever they're hearing this message from, they're gravitating to that in a twofold way. And then in the there's attention is your first step, right? And then interest. In that interest step is they're really saying in their mind, let me know more about this. I want more information about this. And then the third phase is your conviction phase. So we have attention, interest, and conviction. And in that conviction stage, you start to really realize that, this, as the buyer, this is sounding good to me. I'm kind of now tuning that radio effectively into WIIFM. What's in it for me. So now in that phase, it's starting to really resonate and plant its seeds that way. And in the fourth phase, desire, that's where the buying experience really starts to couple up with the mind's eye, and you see yourself doing this. You see yourself benefiting from it. You see yourself investing in it. You kind of play it out in your head. And then, the action step is moving to a favorable decision. So it's attention, interest, conviction, desire, action. Those are the phases of most buying processes that happen. So to give you another clear-cut example of it would be a great example, and I give it in my book, and I try to simplify it for you. So if you're out there, you don't want to be salesy, but you have a product or service, you have a company, you've put all this money into it as an entrepreneur, you've taken the loans out, you've second mortgaged your house, you've used inheritance, whatever, you've saved for years, and now this is your dream baby. Well, you have to sell something to get paid for something, so you have to go through this process. So if you want to make it much more desirable, then just remember the buying phases and try to play into that. So let's take a look at a restaurant, right? A restaurant experience. Something grabs your attention, right? Something grabs your attention and you go, you know what? I don't want to make dinner tonight. I want to go eat dinner. And you know what? I think I really feel like going. I heard a commercial. I saw a billboard. I got out of the car to get gas, and steaks were wafting across the parking lot at me, and I could smell them, or seafood, or Mexican food, or pizza, or whatever it was. You smelled it, and you go, you know what? I'm interested in going out and going to that type of restaurant, right? So you sit down, right? So you sit down, and the server. What does a server do? Server comes up, introduces themselves, and they give you a menu. And what's the menu? The menu is that attention, interest. Hey, I want more information. Okay, great. Well, here's the menu. Start looking through the menu and grabbing more information on what we have here. So you've already accomplished the first two phases of the buying process, right? So now you're in that conviction where you start to kind of look at things, the menu, and you go, chicken, not tonight. Seafood, maybe. Yeah, okay, you know what? I think I want seafood rather than chicken. So now you've kind of gone through that, attention, interest, and now you're in that conviction stage, right? Where you're basically saying, what sounds good to me? What feels good to me? I'm tuning the radio station into WIIFM. Now you go and you start to look at the seafood because you've narrowed it down there. Now you're in, right, where attention, interest, conviction, desire. Now start looking at the seafood. You go, you know what? I can see myself eating the grouper, not the scallops. I thought a minute ago I wanted the scallops. Now I want the grouper over everything else. So I'm going to get the pecan encrusted grouper. So you see yourself starting to eat it. And then the waiter comes up, right? The waitress, whoever, the server comes up and says, okay, sir, what would you like to eat? You know what? I'm sorry. I think I made a mistake. I'm gonna go home and make dinner. Sorry about all the trouble. Does that happen? No. When does that ever happen? Have you ever done that? No. Why have you never done that? Because you've taken yourself through the progression of the first four phases of the buying process, and now it's time for action. So somebody comes up and asks you for an order. Right? It's the server. Asks you what you want to eat. And what do? 999 times out of 1,000, you tell that server what you want to eat. You take favorable action on the completion of those first four buying phases, and now this is your fifth. So think about that example. Think about that analogy. As you do your business, if you can effectively take your potential clients, potential customers, take your customers through those four phases of the buying process successfully, and then you get to the point where you ask for their business, I can tell you in 35 years of doing this, the favorable decision is in most cases a natural consequence. It's a consequence that flows out of completing the first four phases of the buying process effectively. And it's much easier to get someone to answer an alternative question. Well, Mr. Jones, thanks so much for everything that we've been through. And I'd just like to ask you, when do you think you would like installation? Is Tuesday next week good, or do you think Thursday would be more preferable? And they're probably going to say, you know what? Yeah, I think Thursday be the better day. Let me just check with my wife. Honey, this Thursday about? Yeah, okay. Or whatever the case is. It's a simple alternate question. You have an either or choice. And I mean, it gets down to, it can be that simplified if we understand the buying phases and if we accomplish the first 4 phases of the buying process. So, a big assist here now is when we get into the proof. So as you're going through these 4 phases of the buying process, make sure you can supply the person you're trying to do business with proof. So if Matt and Alex were trying to sell podcast studio services, right? What would they probably end up showing people? They probably end up showing them pictures of the studio as proof, right? And they'd show them a finished result or finished results. Here's how we handle the color. Here's how we handle the sound. Here's how we handle the setup. And now here's a couple more testimonials. Here's a few of our folks that we've done the podcast with and what they have to say about it. So now you're incorporating these things that in the world of doing business, we call this evidence defeats disbelief. Think of the word defeats, D-E-F-E-A-T-S, right? Demonstrations, exhibits, facts, examples, right? Testimonials, statistics, analogies. So when you go down that acronym, there's 7 components: demonstrations, exhibits, facts, examples, right? Testimonials and statistics. And you've got these things there that you can draw on, and you can, an analogy. We use an analogy today of a restaurant, right? To try to get the point across about the buying phase. So it's a very effective tool because analogies are just wonderful at making the complicated seem simple. So we've got these tools in our tool bag. Use them. Bring them out to make sure that those first 4 phases are being completed. Because when you complete those buying phases and you can get to that end decision, the favorable decision will come off being a much more natural extension of the entire process. And it will almost, seem just as simple as the waiter or waitress coming up and saying, let me take your order. What would you like? And 99 out of 1,000 times you tell them. And I'm not saying you're going to close your customers or going to get a customer 199 times out of 1,000, but you'll have a much easier time, especially if you don't want to get salesy. So just think, evidence defeats disbelief. And again, I want to just make sure you understand that that's demonstrations, exhibits, facts, examples, analogy, testimonials, and statistics. Those are your 7 components. So just make sure you have a good arsenal of them, and that will help you. But, it's the buying process to understand. We outline that exact thing in the book, plus much more. But the book is not a salesy book. This is no way this is a salesy book. But we touch on understanding the buying process. So we're going to dip today. And if you haven't been with us before, we love rock and roll. So we dip in and we look at a Lost in the Shuffle track, and we put the Lost in the Shuffle track up in the right-hand corner of the visual experience. So we're on YouTube. You can see this card. Eventually, when we name the tune, Matt or Dietz put the card up there, and you have about 5 seconds to click on the card, and that takes you to a YouTube video that contains the song we're talking about. So we don't play them on the show, but that's how you access them. You cannot access them on a listening platform, but you can hear who the artist is, who the tune is, and you can grab it any way you want from there. But this is a really cool one, and we like dipping in and looking at tracks that were important to us. Maybe weren't the top hit, but they were the 3rd, 4th, 5th song on the album, and they're just they've got a relevance to me or a guest that I have on as an interview. So this today is really a cool song, Creedence Clearwater Revival, and it's called Ramble Tamble. And it's not one you've really ever heard of. It's on Cosmos Factory, which Cosmos Factory is their fifth album, came out in 1970. And Ramble Tamble is kind of a great song. It's got a shift in tempo. It's got a great guitar solo on here. It really has a cool transition from one tempo to the other that makes it very unique. It just really, I don't know why it gives me goosebumps still, but it does. It gives me goosebumps when I hear it, and it's just one of those tunes. I've got, a handful of them in my life that do that to me, and for some reason, I don't know what it is, but so I wanted to share it with you. It's really a cool song. Ramble Tamble CCR 1970. And guys, this computer, right? We can do so much research with a computer, right? And we just we ask you that to consider being your own information gatherer. Learn. There's so much to gather out there and so much to learn on our own. We don't need a mainstream media or cable news network to tell us what we think. Go out and find the information. There's so much of it out there. We want you to be truth tellers, right? Be truth tellers. We need more of you in the future. Turn on more podcasts. Turn off more news, and let the podcast world, tens of thousands of them, just have fun with it and let it invade your ear space and airspace. It's so much fun. Read the Bible. There's so many great stories in it. Pray. Love the Lord God with all your heart. And remember, we're always talking about the business experience here. So if you want to change the results of your business, we argue in this new frontier, change the how you do business, because it's in the how. That's the team of horses pulling the results cart. We will see you in 168 hours. Have a great week.